After 23 long years, we finally are graced with another Medabots title, officially released globally even. For reference, the last one we got was Medabots Infinity, a GameCube exclusive that I can't actually cover on this channel because the emulator can't handle a balloon popping. No, seriously, if anyone can help me with this, I would be eternally in your debt. That aside, this has been a long time coming. We in the English-speaking world were largely passed by, as the Medabots franchise actually has continued on in Japan this whole time. But, at long last, we finally get a mobile game. Oh boy. Okay guys, let's bite this bullet together and see what's going on with Medabots Survivors. Greetings everyone, this is the Hipster Snek, finally writing another actual script for the first time in like half a year, yada yada, no one cares, let's get into things. Released February of 2026, Medabots Survivors proposes the crossover that no one was asking for exactly, by combining Medabots and Vampire Survivors because that's just the thing to do right now, and then releasing it as a free-to-play mobile game. What could conceivably go wrong? There's no real story to be found, minus a little expository banter from a local Medabot scientist whose character left no real impression on me, so I don't remember her name and her Medabot. They're not really important except to introduce the basics. You get thrown into a tutorial battle and taught said basics. During moment-to-moment gameplay, you focus on moving your Medabot, more on them in a second, and making decisions whenever you level up, selecting up to teams of 6 Medabots, kind of, and 6 tools to support them. Then you pick sequential level ups chosen from a random list. It's like Vampire Survivors, and if you're on my channel, you must know that that exists, right? Right, good. Let's touch on graphics and sound next. So the game sounds pretty good, but I will say due to the nature of the genre, it's going to become repetitious, and it's gonna get there quick. There's a reason I have YouTube playlists for when I multi-hour binge Vampire Survivors, but it's all decent and it doesn't offend the senses in a vacuum. The graphics, let's talk about in-gameplay first. The sprites of Medabots are very cute and colorful, in this delightful chibi/super deformed style with stubby legs and exaggerated features and bright colors. The sprites look good. It's all very clear what you're looking at and what to take from each. Some of the shot effects look a little lazy, as several are static sprites with no particular animation that just float through the air, but it's all on a small screen, so I guess it's not that bad, especially as they want this to perform decently even on low-end devices. It gets a thumbs up nonetheless. In the Team Select, you can even see the official art of all these Medabots, and they all look great. Admittedly, it does have that Pokemon issue where you can see that the newer ones are way more over-designed than old, but they're all really cool just to be fair. Now, I need to show the double-edged sword of the graphical design by talking about the menus, from which every single facet of this game launches. Look at this menu. Every single side of the screen is just stuff everywhere. Who approved this GUI? This is horrendous by any measure. On the left, buttons with tons of flashy colors. On the right, much the same. On the bottom, the entire row is full of buttons. The top has both a tiny HUD and a rotating banner showing the Gacha banners currently active. More on those in just a minute. The entire center area is full of a static image of Medabi, Rokusho, and the new KBT and KWG mascots, those being Alephasoma and Belarus Mandy, and I think I said those names right? The art is good, that's not in question here, just that the layout is horrendous. A menu should be clean, uncluttered, and convey simply the options available to a player. But it's not even just that it's a bad, cluttered, ugly menu. To even get to the menu, you need to close out of the dozens of ads trying to sell you stuff before you've even started playing the game. Oh, and they don't just stay gone either. Each day, post-server refresh, they try to shill some of their in-game currency, gems of course. Make some kind of progress? Hey, why not buy some digital funny money to celebrate? Pull that UR rarity Medabot from the gacha at long last? Why not buy some gems to supplement the difference? Turn the game on for the first time today? Yep, more ads for more gems. Just more. This game is horribly predatory and it's alarmingly unsubtle. I have played mobile games with some really awful gacha mechanics in them, like Fire Emblem Heroes, Dragon Pow, or Line Monster Farm, but none of them advertise just straight up dropping your cold hard cash this way, even if they did wink, nod, and nudge in that general direction. Oh, speaking of ads, you might think that you can get some of these currencies for free from just playing and, of course, watching some ads. Well, you're kind of right. For watching 3 ads in a row, you can get a paltry sum of these gems or a fistful of coins you'll just stop tracking after a certain point. Gems are for the gachas, you'll always get them in very small, controlled quantities, and the coins are just for miscellaneous power-ups, so you'll just dump them into a Scrooge McDuck money bin and stop mining them after a while. When it comes to the coins, you'll always have more than you need, so don't even worry about it. Save your time. Nothing quite like watching 3 Royal Kingdom ads in a row for 20 whole gems when 3,000 is required for a 10 pull. Let's talk about this gacha because it's a mess. First of all, at time of writing, Medabots Survivors has 14 gacha banners active, and 3 additional Pico gachas are added after a certain amount of progress is made for a total of 17 active banners immediately off the bat. And that's just as far as I've played. There could be more for all I know. They all have their own roster, drop rates, and the Medabots all can drop at different rarities, those being normal, rare, SR, UR, LR, and MR, making efficient management a logistical nightmare. Now, in the game's defense, there is one thing it does that I do like, where your normal R and SR copies of the same bot can be fused together up to the UR rank, where it plateaus. Of course, barring access to the highest echelons, because that would prevent you from wailing on the gacha some more. And if you were wondering, the Pico gachas are just pixel art cards that give some passive stat bonuses. Entirely unremarkable, but kind of neat, I guess. Now, the long-term fans of Medabots probably have some pretty big questions about here. Like, wait, you get whole Medabots just out of the gacha? Well, after the whole debacle with that knockoff name stealer, who, by the way, actually copyright restricted that video I did on them, as if I'd miss the 5 cents I would get from it, I understand your confusion. But yes, you get whole Medabots from the gacha, and some levels even give you some normal rarity bots, not individual meta parts. That's because this game has no meta part customization whatsoever. Every Medabot has one attack, and none of their parts can be changed. The game also has no tin pets or medals as we old school fans would recognize them. Instead, we get 6 team medals: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, and Zeta, all of which have an attack stat, power, and an HP stat, armor. The downside means is there's no customization or specialization with any of these medals. The upside is that with this system, you level up the team slots and any Medabot slotted in gets these benefits, meaning you can quickly and easily change strategies on the fly. I mean, you won't, for reasons I'll get into here shortly, but you can. On paper, that does sound pretty fantastic, and something that, in a game with as many options as we're given here, should be easy to get behind. The problem is that your team configuration is basically completely irrelevant with the exception of whoever is slotted into the alpha medal slot, your party leader. When you begin a RoBattle, really a series of waves in a survival mission, hence the game's name, you begin with your leader and their weapon and nothing else. As they level up, you can pick up to 5 more Medabots to fill out your team, even if they don't really show up as a team at all. Now, to be fair, your team's stats all calculate into the equation, but you're not obligated to bench Medabots whose weapons you want to use. Having them on your team might raise the chance of them showing up during a level up, maybe, but I can't even prove that in any meaningful sense. Cyan Dog isn't on my team lineup, but I pick him in almost every single run because his very straightforward weapon is too good not to have. Enemies come at you in relatively predictable ways, but it doesn't quite work like Vampire Survivors does. There, you power up, and the difficulty curve as a whole gradually winds up with more complex levels or mechanics. Here, enemies just come in 3 flavors: the brain-dead ones that rush you with no real strategy in mind, and only hit you if you're overwhelmed by sheer numbers, the ones that hide in the back and fire projectiles, keeping in mind that you can't destroy projectiles like you can in Vampire Survivors, so they're actually a threat, and boss fights. Let me take a small step back to explain this a little bit further concerning how it relates to your team and your choices. Medabots Survivors, in typical mobile game fashion, throws you a freebie UR and the option to grind for the two mascot KBT and KWG models over a short time frame, which is fair enough. I got Ninefold Heart, the Kitsune model, with a short-range fire attack, and she quickly became my ringer because of high damage output and good crowd control. During any given run, I pick some safe, reliable standby choices, like Cyan Dog, Shooter Spider, and Gloomegg, then get the usual roster of support tools. Health regen, reduced cooldown, raised attack, and increased range, typically. At that point, I can just pick whatever for fun, and then I win by not falling asleep. The game only becomes difficult by way of numbers, and that's not to say a target-rich environment. That might actually be interesting, but just making it so that you have a very small margin of error, as the slightest tap of a boss's attack is half your max HP. Normal enemies are only dangerous when they get massively buffed over your threshold for power, projectiles are dangerous if you're careless, and when a boss spawns in, the timer stops running. So the best thing to do for them is to simply avoid their attacks, and rely on Medabot weapons that don't require any mechanical skill on your part, like the three I just mentioned, for example. Every boss shares the same attack roster, of either spamming projectiles, rushing at you, some high plate damage forecasts, and the occasional bullet hell pattern, but none of these aren't simply neutralized by casually circle strafing the boss till they just drop. Every mission is 5 or 8 minutes, at least for the leg of things I've played through thus far, and again, the timer pauses during said boss encounters. There's absolutely no rush on your part, and you don't die at time over, you actually win. So the optimal builds and boss strategies are extremely conservative and predictable, the precise opposite of what you expect in a game inspired by the genre-creating Vampire Survivors and its many copies. So it's not really Medabots, and it's not really Vampire Survivors. So what is it exactly? I'd say it's okay. It is just a very okay entry into the ever-growing list of survival-styled games, marred by a terrible GUI and a predatory and unwelcome gacha system that wants to keep you constantly hooked in a dopamine loop and periodic mercy systems. And honestly, that kind of makes me die a little inside. Medabots, from its first mangas, its anime, and its first batch of games, was genuinely great. That's why we wanted it back after all this time. But this just ain't it, Chief. Medabots Survivors poses to the Medabots franchise, at least in terms of its outside of Japan future, the same problem that Line Monster Farm poses to the Monster Rancher license. It's a damned if we do, and a damned if we don't. Because if the game does well, they'll see it as the gamers saying that they always wanted Medabots as a very okay-ish and forgettable mobile title, and will never get anything but. If the game does poorly, they'll just assume we never wanted the franchise back in the first place, and we return to the net negative status quo of the last 23 years. Its very existence serves as an existential reminder of just how many of these licenses are controlled by those with the least incentive to care about them. Purely from a monetary standpoint, the game doesn't make sense. If I go onto Steam right now and put Vampire Survivors and all of its DLC into a cart, counting the game's OST, the totality of that purchase is $21 USD plus tax. Meanwhile, $26.40 USD plus tax, and Medabots Survivors gets you one 10-pull on one of its 17 gacha banners. Heck, I could take advantage of their game bundles and get Balatro and Ball-X Pit for about $27 too. That's 2 full games. And that's the pain point. Medabots deserves better than just okay and forgettable. And it always has. And I am terrified it's gonna be another 23 years before we get it again now because of Medabots Survivors. And that's all she wrote. For now. This has been the Hipster Snek, and man, I hate this is all we're getting. What did you guys think? Are you having fun with it? Am I the fuddy-duddy on this? Are you able to find more in this game than I can? Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. And thanks for listening to the end. If you haven't yet, please tap that like button to let me know that you did, and subscribe if you haven't. It all helps me out an awful lot. And join me here for more Let's Plays, reviews, podcasts, and more, and I will see you there.